Hello everyone, this is Video Boy and welcome to LibGDX 2D tutorial part 4. So I'm going to start off by showing you guys a little bit of art that I've done. So this art is actually on the GitHub, so when you clone the GitHub repository to start this tutorial, all the art's going to be there. So that's the exit button. So when it's not hovered over, it's going to look like this. Then when you hover your mouse over it, it's going to turn yellow. Also did a play button. And I did a spreadsheet of a spaceship. It's kind of hard to see. I can't really zoom in at this program. There's like a blurry scaling, but this is basically what it looks like. So I just made a quick GIF. So it's just a spaceship that rolls and has some lights and fire. Actually, this GIF is a bit broken. I forgot to fix something on it. Okay, so like I said, if you clone the repository, you're going to get the images and the code from the last tutorial. But if for whatever reason you have to put the images manually, just go into the Android assets folder, just copy the images and just drag them into the asset folder. And then you're good to go. Okay, so what we're going to do for today's episode is we're going to work on the main menu screen. So to use the main menu screen, we're going to have a little bit of mouse input, so like knowing where the mouse's coordinates are, and also some clicking. So let's create a new class here in the screens thing, because we're going to make a screen. We'll call it main menu screen. So it's just a new screen in the game. And just like the game screen, we're going to implements screen. Right, so this gives us all the screen tools, like we talked about in last episode. Just import it and then add unimplemented methods. It's going to give us all these methods. You don't need all of them. Okay, these are the only ones we're going to use. The other ones I'll just completely close them. Oops. Don't want to get rid of that. Oh, actually I need that one. Okay. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in the last tutorial in the main game screen, we had to pass a space game object, and we needed that so we could have access to the batch to draw images. For some reason my mouse is being really glitchy with the scroll, so it might scroll kind of weirdly like this. Sorry about that. I have no idea why it's doing that. So we need to do the same thing for this. So let's make a constructor. So when we create a new main menu screen, it's going to call this. So public main menu screen. Alright. And we're going to need the parameter space game, because we need access to the space game, right? So we'll have space game, and this dot game is equal to game. Oh, there's just a little bit of lag there for a second, sorry about that. Alright, import space game. Okay, so let's just copy over some of the code from here. So all the OpenGL clearing stuff and the batch begin, we'll just copy all that over, because we're going to need it in here also. We'll just paste. We don't need this, because we don't have an image to draw just yet. We'll add them in a second. Alright, that's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's load the images. So let's create a bunch of textures. We'll have texture exit button active. Texture exit button inactive. Okay, we'll just copy these. So we're going to have 4 textures now. Like I showed you, there was the 4 buttons before. So same thing now. So the play inactive, the play active, and the exit active, and the exit inactive. Alright, we just have to import texture Okay, now we need to initialize them. So it's exactly like the LibGDX logo we had before. Actually, I'll run the code now just to show you guys the logo. Remember this logo? Well, that was inside the assets folder also. So we need to access it. So they're all saved as PNGs. So we need to remember that when we're doing this, because we need to actually write that inside the code. It's equal to new texture. So we're creating a new texture. Well, we're actually loading an existing texture, but we're creating a new texture object. Alright, and what was the name again? I actually forget. So you have to put the exact name because it has to know exactly where to get it. Play button active, play button inactive. Alright. Play button active dot png, right? Oops. Alright, exit, and then inactive. Alright, so why don't we try rendering one of them just to see what it looks like. So game.batch.draw. Alright, we'll just go with the basic one. So we'll draw the exit button active. Alright, so that's the texture we want to draw. We'll draw it at coordinates 100, 100. We're just testing for now, so it doesn't really matter too much. Oh, yeah, I forgot one really important thing. Right now, when you start the game, we're setting the screen to main game screen. But for now, when we're testing, we're going to set it to main menu screen, which makes more sense anyways, right? When you're playing a game, it doesn't send you right into the game when you load it up. It sends you into the menu. So we're going to set it, when the game starts, we're going to set it to the main menu screen. Okay, so now, there you go. There's a big problem though, the image looks huge. So we can actually scale it. So let's scale it then. So when you use the draw function or method, you can set different parameters. So you can set the width and height. So just for test purposes, let's try 100 by 50. I don't think it's the same aspect ratio, but let's just try it. Alright, so it looks pretty small. So we'll make it bigger than that. But generally, it's not really good to hard code numbers like that. So let's create constants for it. This is a good practice. So to create a constant, let's make them private actually. We don't need them outside of this class. So private static final int. Alright, so we'll call it exit button width. And we'll set it to, say, 300. Alright, we'll do the same thing, but we'll do height. We'll set it to, I think it was actually a pretty good aspect ratio. We'll just do 150. We'll do the same for the play button. The play button is slightly wider, I think, just by a little bit. From coding Archipelago so much, I always write player instead of play. 330 sounds about right. Alright, so now we can actually put those values in here. So exit button width. Okay, there you go. Alright, not too bad. I think that's a good size. we'll just stick with this for now. There's another thing I want to change also. So let's go into the desktop launcher class. So I want to change the window size when you first start the game, and I want to remove. I don't want to allow the user to resize it. So to go into the desktop launcher class, go into desktop project, and you go down, and then you have the desktop launcher. I already have it here. Okay. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I changed the FPS to show you guys delta time. But there's other stuff you can do with the config also. So if you click on it, well, if you don't click on it, but if you're at config, then dot, it gives you a bunch of parameters. So one of the parameters is width. So I want to set the width of the screen. So let's use constants for this also. I usually like putting the width and height of the screen in the main game class, and I'll make them public this time. So I just call it width because it's just the general width, and we'll set it to 480. Public static int height, set it to 720. Okay, so go here and you can actually access it. So you do space game dot width. Since it's static, you're able to access it from the class. You don't need an object. I forgot the dot. Okay, and there's also another parameter I want to change. So config dot resizable. So this takes a boolean. Booleans are variables that can be either true or false. So right now by default it's true, and I want it to be false because I don't want the user to be able to resize the screen. So if you load the game up now, as you can see, it looks more like a shooter. The screen's kind of high, and there's no more options to resize. And if you go to the side, it doesn't let you resize it at all. If I can even get my mouse right, so it just doesn't let you. Just drags the screen. So on any operating system you play the game on, it's going to do this. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to center the buttons. So centering is fairly simple actually, and we already created all the constants we need for it. So let's just do it. So basically what you do is you get the size of the window and divide it by 2. But that's not all though. But I'll show you guys what it does if all you do is divide by 2. Alright, well the image doesn't actually start here, it starts probably somewhere around here. So basically, when you draw an image, it starts at the 0 coordinate where the image starts and then draws up that way. So it's a bit too much to the right. So what we have to do is we have to subtract the width of the image. So exit button width, but not just the whole width, you divide by that by 2 also. And there you go. Pixel perfect, perfectly centered. Looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to do a constant for this too now. So I don't need to do that on camera, I'll just do it. Okay, so I just made a constant now, it's at 100, and I also made for the play button, and I set it here. So the main reason I did this is because, well, we're actually going to use the Y coordinate quite often. We're going to have to use it twice. Okay, so now let's do a little bit with mouse input. So I'll show you guys some basic stuff with it. So I already showed you guys the is key pressed input with LibGDX. So you do gdx.input.isKeyPressed, and then you tell it the key that you want to check is pressed, and then it tells you if it's pressed or not. So they have another thing you can do in gdx.input. There's a whole bunch. If you guys want to check them out on your own time, you can definitely do that. There's a whole bunch of different inputs. There's gyroscope stuff, accelerometers, all that, all of those things you can imagine using a mobile device or a computer. So wait, let's put in an if statement. GDX dot input dot, and then for mouse and also for touch, use get x and get y. So you get x, and we'll just say is less than 100, just to test. I'll show you guys how we can do. We can check if you're hovering over the actual image or not. But for now, let's just try that. Okay, so if the x-coordinate of the mouse is less than 100, draw the active button, and if it isn't, draw the inactive one. It's going to draw the exact same place. So let's try that out. Alright, so see, 100 pixels is around here. So if I go past the 100, or 100 or more, it's going to be inactive, and if I go to below 100 pixels, it's going to be active. So basically what we want to do is we want to check if the mouse is within the image area. Now I might have to edit the images a little bit because the actual image is not exactly where it ends, like where the letter ends. So I might have to do that for next episode, but for now we'll just do this. So how do you check if it's within? So you want to check if the x is less than where the image is placed on x, like where the image's x coordinate is, plus the width of the image. So let's actually just create an x here, since we're going to use it quite often. So we'll just copy that. Because we're going to use it a lot, so might as well. Alright, so if the x of the mouse is less than the x of the image plus the image's width, so exit button width, and the x coordinate of the mouse is more than the x coordinate of the image, and well, here I'll actually show you guys the effect it does right now. We'll add the y after. Oh, I actually have it backwards. But just imagine that the yellow is... Oh no, it's not backwards, it's good. Okay, so as long as our mouse is in between here and here, it's going to show as active. But if it goes outside on either side, it's going to be inactive. So basically we cut off the x's. Now we have to cut off the y's. Okay, so it's almost the exact same thing actually. Input get y this time. I don't know why I put an x there. Is less than exit button y plus exit button height. Oh, I just forgot to put the and symbols. Don't forget those brackets. Alright, and the last condition. I don't know why I'm doing this. Is more than exit button y. I'm not used to using this keyboard and it's kind of annoying for my hands. Alright, so let's run it. Hold on, I think I messed something up. Okay, I figured out the problem. It's actually kind of a weird problem. I've never actually really used the Y input this way in LibGDX. Well, I have, but I've done something else that's a little bit more complicated to process it. Well, we'll cover that stuff later on. But for now, what we have to do is we have to get the height of the screen and then minus it by the Y value. And subtract the Y value from it. So it's reflected. Because right now, well, because before, actually, if you guys saw me, I was hovering over here and it was getting active. That's because the Y00, the Y at 0, was up here before, not at the bottom of the screen. So it would get to the Y value of the button, which is around here, and it would activate it here. But we don't want that. So all you have to do, get the height of the screen, minus gdx.input.getY, and do the same for the other Y thing. And then there you go. It works. Like I said, the image is big, so it does this. I'll fix it for next episode. Alright, I'm going to implement the play button real quick. I bet you guys can figure it out, so I suggest you pause the video and try to do the play button on your own and see if it works. But I'm going to implement it right now, and then we'll end the episode off. Alright, so I got it working. It's looking pretty good. You might just want to change the Y of the play button, make it down a little bit, because it's kind of big, well, kind of high up. So let's run it. I'll show you guys the code after. So there you go. Actually, they're kind of overlapping right now, so you can actually have them both active, which you don't really want that. Yeah, you just make the Y value a little bit higher. It'll be a bit harder to do that next episode, once I have them all fixed properly. Anyways, that's not too big of a deal. So we'll end this. Oh, here's the code, by the way. If you guys want to copy it, it's almost exactly the same as this code, as you might notice. It's just exit is replaced with play pretty much everywhere, and that's the only difference. Anyways, that ends it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We covered quite a bit of stuff this episode. Next episode, we're going to talk about actually clicking the buttons and going into the game and stuff like that. And we might add a little bit of stuff for the game too. Let's maybe start playing a little bit. We'll probably add the ship textures I showed you with some animations. And yep. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot, and it keeps the community growing, and we can all help each other out, and we can all learn how to make good games. So see you guys next week. Oh, and I want to mention one last thing too. I'm changing my recording schedule for tutorials, so I'm going to record them on Friday nights now and upload them on Saturdays. So probably Saturdays and more in the afternoon in Easter time. So yep, new recording schedule. I missed uploading last Tuesday's episode because I'm just really too busy in the week to upload the videos. But the weekends it should be easier. So I hope you guys are okay with that. Anyways, see you guys for the next episode. Goodbye.